Let's rank the top 5 weak and smooth bowling balls of 2024. In 2024, so far, there have been 89 bowling balls that have been released, which is a little bit less than last year. Still sounds like a lot. But this is the weird thing. The weak and smooth category, the category we use to label weaker symmetrical, generally solid or hybrid bowling balls that have smoother ball reactions down lane, there have only been 5 bowling balls released in this category. So out of 89 bowling balls, we've had 5 in this slot, which is shocking to say the least. This is a very versatile spot in the bag. I still think it's the least usable spot in our 6-ball Arsenal scale. Go check out the channel if you don't know what the 6-ball Arsenal scale is, but there have only been 5 bowling balls that have been released here. So our top 5 list gets a little bit easier. We're not leaving anybody off the list, but let's rank all 5 of those bowling balls from worst to best. Starting off in the number 5 slot, we have the Storm Tropical Surge Solid. Now, the Tropical series from Storm has been one of the most impactful series for them on an entry-level scale. Storm, Rotogrip, and 900 Global really don't have much in that entry-level spot. Storm has always had tropical line bowling balls. They've had Tropical Storms, Tropical Surge, Tropical Breeze, etc., etc. What those are going to be very weak, very low-end bowling balls that are going to be generally cheaper. That is a step for a bowler to start getting into regular reactive equipment. So me, as someone who works at a pro shop, I always like to recommend a bowling ball like a Tropical Surge to somebody who's just getting into bowling and wants to learn how to hook the ball. Now, the Tropical Surge Solid was really good. A lot of high-end bowlers actually drilled these. Because the differential is so low and the RG is so high, this can be used on completely torched lane conditions. It can be used from straighter on wood lanes, or people with high rev rates might like it. But in general, this is the least usable weak and smooth ball on the list. If you're even a balanced bowler, you have virtually zero reason to throw a Tropical Surge Solid, unfortunately, unless you bowl on lanes that are always absolutely fried out of their minds. But in that case, I would recommend a Pearl Ball over on our weak and sharp list. So that is why the Tropical Surge Solid comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is the Rotogrip Hustle X-Ray. The Hustle series from Rotogrip has been by far the largest general entry-level line in the bowling industry. The Hustles are always the best bang for your buck and have been for years and years. We've had amazing bowling balls coming from this line. The Hustle RIP, Hustle Inc. We have the Hustle X-Ray here, the Hustle PBR, which won a PBA title. A couple of those won PBA titles, which is kind of crazy. But this is generally the best entry-level line that's actually usable for regular bowlers. So like I mentioned with the Tropical series, they really aren't usable for a 200 plus average bowler. However, the Hustle line usually is, because these are really good for very late in the day, or if you want a ball that really doesn't do much down lane. The Hustle series is usually great for that, and the Hustle X-Ray is no exception. This is the solid version of the Hustles that released this year. Every year they usually do a refresh on the Hustle colors. Everything pretty much stays the same, maybe a slightly different cover stock, virtually identical though. So this X-Ray, while having not a great color scheme, has been a really good solid Hustle. This is just like the Hustle PBR from a couple years ago, which people adored for shorter bowling patterns because it was just so smooth. This X-Ray fits that very, very well. So if you're someone who's rev dominant and you want something that's not gonna hook that much and you want it to be smoother because you can make a ball hook no matter what, this is a fantastic option, and a fantastic option that's generally around $100 before drilling. This is one of the cheapest options in bowling that can be used on actual decent amounts of oil, unlike the Tropical series. However, the Hustle X-Ray just doesn't really fit compared to the other balls on this list. It's still the least usable for most bowlers compared to the others, but the Hustle series is no joke, so don't forget that. But that's why the Hustle X-Ray is number 4. Coming in at the number 3 slot, we're going to Motive Bowling with their entry-level release this year. That is the Max Thrill Solid. Now, Motive usually doesn't have many entry-level bowling balls. They have plastic balls, and then they go all the way up to their reactive balls. They skip where those Tropicals or the Hammer Raws usually fit. They just don't make those bowling balls. Instead, they have this Max Thrill Solid, which is actually a very good bowling ball for a ton of people. That is the fun thing with these top 3 bowling balls. They're amazing bowling balls. However, they're just a little less usable in something like in the medium smooth slot, but these are all very usable. Max Thrill Solid is a solid, pretty weak cord bowling ball from Motiv. It's their weakest solid bowling ball. However, it has been used on tour. EJ's thrown it a handful of times. This thing can hook, even though it's weak smooth, even though it's a small core, even though it's a weaker cover. This thing can bend the lane. This thing hooks way more than advertised. Motiv was trying to make something that hooks more than it should, and they succeeded. The thrills are usually pretty okay at best. The thrills and the top thrills have been fine. They usually have bright colorways, which sells a lot, but otherwise they just don't have a purpose. They're kind of more like a tropical in that way. The max thrills are more like a beefed up hustle, in my opinion, where this thing is actually very good for more bowlers, for balance bowlers, and for more rev dominant bowlers. It can actually be used from a little bit straighter. It can actually go through the pins pretty well. It's basically just a hustle x-ray, but on steroids. And the colorway is really good too. It's a fantastic colorway, but that is why the Motiv Max Thrill Solid is number 3. Coming in at number 2 is going to be a really hyped up bowling ball from Storm Bowling, and that is the Storm Ion Pro. The Storm Ion Pro was supposed to be the benchmark for bowlers. This was supposed to be a benchmark bowling ball. However, after a couple of months of it being on the market, it is much weaker than people anticipated. It's basically just a slightly higher IQ tour. Now, you'll probably remember when this ball was first getting dropped and first released, I actually had it on my medium and smooth list. However, after a couple months of talking to a lot of bowlers, seeing more reviews on it, doing all that, watching it at tournaments, this ball is weaker than we all anticipated, so I dropped it down to the weak and smooth list. But it is number 2 on the list because this Ion Pro has been amazing for a lot of people. This past weekend, I had a lot of people talking about how good of a ball it was, which is great. This is a mild asymmetrical hybrid ball, but it is supposed to fit between a Phase 2 and an IQ Tour because there's a big gap between those two bowling balls, so the Ion Pro is trying to fit right in between. However, it leans a little too close to the IQ Tour, so really, in my opinion, this is a more usable IQ Tour. This is what the IQ Tour was when it first released, and Storm is doing that with a lot of their bowling balls right now. The High Road and the High Road Pearl, they came out the Road and the Road Warrior, which are more usable versions of those old bowling balls. So that's really what the Ion Pro is. Unfortunately, it's a little weaker than people thought, but this thing is a house shot machine. There have been a lot of honor score shot with this bowling ball. If you're somebody with a higher rev rate, if you're somebody that has higher axis rotation, this Ion Pro is going to be a really good play for you. The only unfortunate piece is the price of it. It is listed at a very expensive bowling ball. I don't have the number offhand, but it is a little too pricey for where it fits in a bag. So if you can find one for cheaper, I highly recommend it. At retail value, you might have to look elsewhere. And finally, the number 1 bowling ball on this list is one that came out very early in 2024, but everybody has adored who's drilled one. It is the Hammer Arctic Vibe. This super wonky white and purple looking bowling ball has been amazing for so many people. This is the perfect single ball that you need out of the year. If you're somebody who just wants one bowling ball a year and that's all you really need, you use it for leagues, this Arctic Vibe is a great play because it's cheap, it looks really cool, and it strikes a ton. This ball is super strong, super tumbly for a lot of people. This is probably the most usable bowling ball out of these 5 for any type of bowler, where you can have rev dominant, speed dominant, or balance bowlers actually make this thing look really good. Most of the others on the list, rev dominant bowlers will make it look really good, and balance will make it look okay. This is one that everybody can throw, which is a great sign because there really weren't many on this list, as I mentioned. So this Arctic Vibe is one that actually can hook from pretty far left. It actually doesn't hate oil as much as the others, and it is really good for when the lane gets cliffed. So that's when there's a lot of oil in the middle of the lane, but there isn't much oil on the outsides. That's where this Arctic Vibe really excels. I've seen a couple 300 shot with this ball in my state. There have been a bunch of others throughout the nation. This is by far the best-selling Vibe from Hammer right now. They actually got rid of the radioactive in place of this ball, which is awesome. Even though it's a hybrid, it still reacts super, super well. So if you're looking for that one cheap bowling ball, or you're looking for something cheap that gets you fully into throwing reactive bowling balls, this Arctic Vibe is going to be a great option. And that is going to do it for our top 5 weak and smooth bowling balls that have been released in 2024. Remember, this is only 2024 bowling balls, so things like the IQ Tour aren't on this list because it got released like 8 years ago. So it is a fantastic bowling ball. However, it doesn't fit on the list because it was made too long ago. This is only 2024 bowling balls. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any of these or what you think of my list or what your list would be. I'm very excited to hear what you guys have for lists for these top 5 bowling balls. With there only being 5 of them, it'll be really interesting to see where you mix and match them together. I've really enjoyed reading your guys' reactions to our top 5 lists and reading what your top 5 lists are. So I want to keep that going. Keep putting comments down below to see what yours are. Otherwise, we'll have a Weak and Sharp video coming very, very soon. But if you enjoy what we do, make sure to drop a subscription. It helps me out a ton, and then you get notified next time our videos go live. Otherwise, that's all I have. Have a great day, guys. I will see you on the next one.